The government calls Ted Callaway.
If you would, please, sir, if you'd come forward, Mr. Callaway. Mr. Callaway, if you would, please, if you'd come forward. Have a seat right over here in the witness chair, if you would, please, sir. Have a seat there, please. Tell us your name.
My name's Ted Callaway.
Thank you.
Mr. Callaway, your present occupation, sir?
I'm a used car dealer.
Okay. Directing your attention back to the date November the 22nd, 1963, the date President Kennedy was assassinated. Were you employed as the used car manager at Harris Brothers Auto Sales located at 501 East Jefferson Boulevard in Dallas?
That's correct.
Around 1:15 p.m. on that date, will you tell the jury where you were and what you heard at that time?
I was standing on the front porch of our office, and when I heard what sounded like 5 pistol shots.
Okay, could you pick up the pointer there by your right hand and indicate on the diagram where you were when you heard the shots and where the shots appeared to be coming from?
I was right here on this porch.
All right.
And the shots sounded like they were coming from this direction on 10th Street.
Okay. Now, when you heard these shots, what did you do at that point?
I ran out to the sidewalk on Patton Street.
Okay, would you use your pointer to point out the locations involved?
Yes, I just ran from here out to the sidewalk.
Okay. Again, with the pointer, would you tell the jury what you observed at that point?
I saw a man running from this front yard on 10th Street across the street, which would be the west side of Patton.
Did he have anything in either of his hands?
Yes, sir. He had a pistol in his right hand.
Okay. How was he carrying the pistol?
He was carrying it in a raised pistol position.
Would you demonstrate that for the jury?
Like this.
Did he run past you where you were?
No, he ran toward me. I was on the east side. He was on the west side of Patton.
What's the closest you came to him?
The FBI measured it at about 56 feet.
Okay.
And
did you get a good, clear view of him?
Very good view.
Did you talk to him at all?
Yes, sir.
What did you say to him, and what did he say to you, if anything?
I hollered at him. I said, "Hey, man, what the hell's going on?" And he slowed almost to a halt, turned in my direction, still had his pistol this direction. He said something to me, which I couldn't understand it. Then he proceeded to run toward Jefferson through this front yard right here and proceeded west on 10th on Jefferson Street.
Let's take a look at the photo of Oswald. Looking at Lee Harvey Oswald, is he or is he not the man that you saw that day?
That's the man, yes, sir.
Any question in your mind about that, sir?
None whatsoever.
Okay, you may sit down again. Thank you. After the man ran past you, after Oswald ran past you, then what did you do, sir?
That's when I ran toward
Yes.
the corner of 10th and Patton and to see what was going on, and that's where I saw the police squad car and Officer Tippett lying in front of the squad car.
Did he appear to be dead at that time?
He did.
And what did you do?
I leaned over and felt his pulse at his throat. Then I got on, found no pulse, and I got on police radio and told them that an officer had been killed. They told me, yes, they'd already heard about it, to stay off the air.
Mr. Callaway, on the night of the Tippett murder, did you go to a lineup at the Dallas Police Department around 6:30 p.m.?
Yes, sir, I did.
How many men were in the lineup?
4.
Were all 4 men of the approximate same age, height, and weight?
They were.
What happened when the 4 men stepped out in front of you?
Well, I recognized Oswald right away as a man that I'd seen running down Patton.
Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Spence?
Now, Mr. Callaway, you did perform a lineup, isn't that true?
Went to the police line?
They did a lineup, didn't they?
Right.
And before they let you identify this, do you think they were being totally fair and open about it?
They sure were.
I mean, they didn't give you any hints of any kind, did they?
No, sir.
I mean, They didn't say anything to you that would lead you to believe that the man that you saw was the man who was supposedly killed the president, did they?
No, sir.
They didn't
I can tell you
say
exactly
to you,
what they said.
They didn't say.
Wait a while. He has something to say, Mr. Spencer.
Yes, he
Just
said
a moment.
he answered it.
No, but
He answered the question. I'm going to overrule Mr. Bugliosi.
He didn't say to you, quote, that officer didn't say to you, quote, we want to be sure. We want to try to wrap him up real tight on killing this officer. We think he is the same one that shot the president. And if we can wrap him up tight on killing this officer, we have got him. Didn't they say that to you?
That is almost word to word what the Chief of Detectives Will Fritz told me, but he preceded his remark was, but be sure, take your time, get a good look at him, do not make an identification unless you are absolutely positive.
And then after he gave you that, he said, we want to be sure, we want to try to wrap him up real tight on killing this officer. We think he's the same one that shot the president.
Right.
And if we can wrap him up tight on killing the officer, we have got him. He told you that, didn't he?
Sure did.
You think that's a fair and impartial way to make a lineup on somebody? I mean, if you were standing in the lineup, innocent, charged of a crime, and somebody said, we want to wrap him up real tight because if we can show he killed the officer, we got the man who killed the president, do you think you'd have got a fair shake?
I'd like to add one thing.
Please.
We had already asked him if they thought it was the man that killed the president.
Could you
And it was in response to that question that he said they thought it was.
Was he dressed like the others in the lineup?
About the same.
About the same. Let's see the pictures of the lineup, please. Is that the others in the lineup?
I don't recall exactly what the lineup was. I wasn't looking to see if they were dressed alike. I was looking for the man that I saw.
And let me see Exhibit 27A. Think that's a picture of Lee Harvey Oswald as you saw him that night?
Yes, sir.
Did he have any marks on him?
When I saw him at the city hall that night, he had some marks on him.
Well, look at the picture here. You say this is the man that you saw at the lineup. Can you see anything on his face that indicates to you that he had a black eye?
Not a very good picture, but I can see that probably something happens to his eye, yeah.
Yeah. Did you notice it that night?
No, sir.
Don't you think it is pretty apparent that the police wanted you to identify the man who looked different, the man who had a black eye, the man who had cuts on his face, the man who wasn't dressed in suit and tie? Don't you think that was pretty obvious to you?
No, sir, it sure doesn't.
Didn't you want to help the police wrap this up good and tight against this man whom they told you was the killer of the president?
No, sir, I wanted to do just exactly what the chief of detectives told me, to take my time to be sure and to be absolutely positive in making my identification.
Do you think you could have made the identification if you'd have had 4 men standing in a line 56 feet away, like you were, all of them the same size, all of them wearing a white T-shirt, all of them with identical marks on their face, a cut over their eye, a black eye, marks? Do you think that you would have then been able to make the identification?
I could have made it, sir, if they'd been naked.
Well, you were never given that chance, were you, sir?
No, sir, I wasn't.
21A, please. You recognize the man there?
Faintly, vaguely.
Who is it?
It's a resemblance of Lee Harvey Oswald.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callaway. You may step down. Call your next witness, please, sir.